Yesterday Pravdin wrote to me. Pravdin was a well-known panslavist abroad, and Countess Lydia Ivanovna described the purport of his letter. Then the Countess told her of more disagreements and intrigues against the work of the unification of the churches, and departed in haste, as she had that day to be at the meeting of some society and also at the Slavonic Committee. It was all the same before, of course, but why was it I didn't notice it before? Anna asked herself. Or has she been very much irritated today? It's really ludicrous. Her object is doing good, she a Christian, yet she's always angry, and she always has enemies, and always enemies in the name of Christianity and doing good. After Countess Lydia Ivanovna another friend came, the wife of a chief secretary, who told her all the news of the town. At 3 o'clock she too went away, promising to come to dinner. Alexey Alexandrovich was at the ministry. Anna, left alone, spent the time till dinner in assisting at her son's dinner. He dined apart from his parents, and in putting her things in order, and in reading and answering the notes and letters which had accumulated on her table. The feeling of causeless shame, which she had felt on the journey, and her excitement, too, had completely vanished. In the habitual conditions of her life she felt again resolute and irreproachable. She recalled with wonder her state of mind on the previous day. What was it? Nothing. Vronsky said something silly, which it was easy to put a stop to, and I answered as I ought to have done. To speak of it to my husband would be unnecessary and out of the question. To speak of it would be to attach importance to what has no importance. She remembered how she had told her husband of what was almost a declaration made her at Petersburg by a young man, one of her husband's subordinates, and how Alexey Alexandrovich had answered that every woman living in the world was exposed to such incidents, but that he had the fullest confidence in her tact, and could never lower her and himself by jealousy. So then there's no reason to speak of it? And indeed, thank God, there's nothing to speak of, she told herself. Chapter 33. Alexey Alexandrovich came back from the meeting of the ministers at 4 o'clock, but as often happened, he had not time to come in to her. He went into his study to see the people waiting for him with petitions, and to sign some papers brought him by his chief secretary. At dinner time, there were always a few people dining with the Karenins. There arrived an old lady, a cousin of Alexei Alexandrovich, the chief secretary of the department and his wife, and a young man who had been recommended to Alexei Alexandrovich for the service. Anna went into the drawing room to receive these guests. Precisely at 5 o'clock, before the bronze Peter I clock had struck the fifth stroke, Alexei Alexandrovich came in, wearing a white tie and evening coat with 2 stars, as he had to go out directly after dinner. Every minute of Alexei Alexandrovich's life was portioned out and occupied. And to make time to get through all that lay before him every day, he adhered to the strictest punctuality. Unhasting and unresting, was his motto. He came into the dining hall, greeted everyone, and hurriedly sat down, smiling to his wife. Yes, my solitude is over. You wouldn't believe how uncomfortable, he laid stress on the word uncomfortable, it is to dine alone. At dinner he talked a little to his wife about Moscow matters, and, with a sarcastic smile, asked her after Stepan Arkadyevitch, but the conversation was for the most part general, dealing with Petersburg official and public news. After dinner he spent half an hour with his guests, and again, with a smile, pressed his wife's hand, withdrew, and drove off to the council. Anna did not go out that evening either to the Princess Betsy Tverskaya, who, hearing of her return, had invited her, nor to the theater, where she had a box for that evening. She did not go out principally because the dress she had reckoned upon was not ready. Altogether, Anna, on turning, after the departure of her guests, to the consideration of her attire, was very much annoyed. She was generally a mistress of the art of dressing well without great expense, and before leaving Moscow she had given her dressmaker 3 dresses to transform. The dresses had to be altered so that they could not be recognized, and they ought to have been ready 3 days before. It appeared that 2 dresses had not been done at all, while the other one had not been altered as Anna had intended. The dressmaker came to explain, declaring that it would be better as she had done it, and Anna was so furious that she felt ashamed when she thought of it afterwards. To regain her serenity completely she went into the nursery, and spent the whole evening with her son, put him to bed herself, signed him with the cross, and tucked him up. She was glad she had not gone out anywhere, and had spent the evening so well. She felt so light-hearted and serene, she saw so clearly that all that had seemed to her so important on her railway journey was only one of the common trivial incidents of fashionable life, and that she had no reason to feel ashamed before anyone else or before herself. Anna sat down at the hearth with an English novel and waited for her husband. Exactly at 9:30 she heard his ring, and he came into the room. "Here you are at last," she observed, holding out her hand to him. He kissed her hand and sat down beside her. "Altogether then, I see your visit was a success," he said to her. "Oh, yes," she said, and she began telling him about everything from the beginning, her journey with Countess Vronskaya, her arrival, the accident at the station. Then she described the pity she had felt, first for her brother, and afterwards for Dolly. "I imagine one cannot exonerate such a man from blame, though he is your brother," said Alexey Alexandrovitch severely. Anna smiled. She knew that he said that simply to show that family considerations could not prevent him from expressing his genuine opinion. She knew that characteristic in her husband, and liked it. "I am glad it has all ended so satisfactorily, and that you are back again," he went on. "Come, what do they say about the new act I have got passed in the council?" Anna had heard nothing of this act, and she felt conscience-stricken at having been able so readily to forget what was to him of such importance. "Here, on the other hand, it has made a great sensation," he said, with a complacent smile. She saw that Alexey Alexandrovitch wanted to tell her something pleasant to him about it, and she brought him by questions to telling it. With the same complacent smile he told her of the ovations he had received in consequence of the act he had passed.